Let's start with mantle strafing. You can do a raz strafe just as you mantle a rampart wall, and then remantle that wall without touching the ground, and do the strafe again, and keep getting that lurch momentum from mantling that ledge, and just repeating over and over. It gives you some crazy strafe speed. It's really hard to aim at, and the time between mantles is the perfect time for a peacekeeper shot. If you slide into an amped wall and then pick it up just as your slide is building up momentum, you'll sort of hold that momentum and then boost out of the wall that has now disappeared and get a nice little speed boost. It's a really great way to just completely bamboozle people. No one expects you to basically go from a standstill to suddenly be sliding behind them. It's really, really strong if timed right, and not enough Rampart players really try this out. If you want to bait a wall to build, then simply put the wall down and then step to the side of the wall. The player's going to shoot you, and then you have a wall to sit behind, and then you can do damage, super glide off it if you want to, whatever you want to do. Here is a perfect example of exactly why I like playing Rampart. Take a look at what we do in this clip, right? We damage the player, and then we use the wall to super glide to close the distance. We are now in the middle of nowhere with no cover, but we can put a shield down here, and then we have that cover that now gives us the option to get more momentum and move to the supply bin. Now later on, we then slide back to this cover that's now built because it's basically been set there whilst their aim has been on us, and we can use that as a shield to block that other duo partner of the enemy team to create a 1v1 against the Octane. The Octane is just not in the position to push us, so we've got a safety net against that Octane whilst we face the Wraith, and then we can quickly turn to the Octane and take them down. Here's another little example of how you can use the mantling feature of Rampart's walls to basically just jump back and forth between two walls. You can just keep going back and forth until you get an angle on the player. It's really confusing for them, and you're always going to have an angle on them through the walls, but because your walls aren't facing each other, then they're not really going to have an angle on you. I'm not really sure what to call this, but essentially we failed the super glide here, but because there was another little ledge there, we could then slide jump off of that and maintain our momentum to go over that rampart wall to basically get there as quickly as possible and take the 1v1 without being attacked through her walls. Thought I'd share that clip with you too. You can actually start spinning your turret while ziplining, which means in the World's Edge zipline building, you can essentially start revving up as you're going up the zipline, jump off and start shooting someone. It's not the most useful thing, but having a bit more mobility whilst you're revving it up is pretty useful. Backwards jump wall placements is something that's pretty well known in the Rampart main community. You can turn back whilst in the air, place a wall, then you got a bit of cover. Another little tip is that you can actually pick up walls whilst reloading. So let's say for some reason you've got one wall left and you've got no other walls in cooldown, right? Like right now I cannot place any more walls. What we could do, we could shoot our target, and as we're reloading we could go like that. Pretty useful. Nice and simple one here. Put down a wall, it can block a grenade. Just put a wall next to a grenade, next to a Bangalore, oh, next to kind of any ordnance, and the wall will just soak up the grenade. Really useful. Super simple door wedge tip. If you put your wall into a corner like this, no one can open the door from the outside, but there's enough space for you to just open the door and go outside if you need to. You may find some areas in the map where you can place the wall and it creates a tiny little peephole between the wall and another piece of terrain. You don't even need to look through the wall, you just have a really nice little cheeky spot to look through. You can actually see the enemy's reaction is first to shoot the wall because they think you're behind the wall. And then it finally clicks in their head and they move their aim to where you actually are, but at that point it's kind of too late for them. First things first in this clip, luckily we get a Pathfinder player with a bow that's just as bad as me with the bow, but take a look at what we do here. The player jumps over our wall that we've just placed, but that's no problem. We can literally just pick up the wall and then place it in front of them again, and we now have that cover building up right in front of them. We can then use that to try and shoot from behind, or if we need to get away, then we can just mantle it, super glide if we're lucky. If we're not lucky, then even just a normal glide can usually be enough to get away and into cover. Oh, another little fact about Rampart's walls and mantling is when you mantle, it's the perfect height to jump over somebody's head. So it's amazing, like they're going to be looking this way and you can jump over their head, put a wall here, and then if you really want to, you can just jump back straight over. Like it just really confuses people. It's the perfect height. It's crazy. If you have somebody that managed to jump over your walls that you've blocked to try and lock yourself in a room, no problem. Just pick up your wall, go outside, and then lock the door behind you. With some practice, you can pretty much just get out of a situation that, they think that they're going to jump into a building and potentially get you whilst you're inside, and then you're just trapping them inside. And if you have your turret by that point, then yeah, they're in a bad situation. It's a perfect example of how you can use Rampart's walls to wedge doors in some areas to just completely restrict the other player's movement. We do it with Mad Maggie, and then as soon as they're down, we can then pick up the wall and leave. It's like the wall basically gives us the freedom to go in and out, peek the door when we want to, and stop anyone else peeking the door, because trying to get over this thing when it's in this angle is just an absolute nightmare. And whilst it's in this building stage, it's basically the same as having it built up fully. It's still just a mess to get over. You have so much control to just peek when you want to, stop other players peeking when you don't want them to peek you. It gives you so much crazy power just when you play it like this. In this clip, I also want to showcase that kind of same ability of being able to pick up and place the walls whenever you want allows you to catch your enemies kind of in a bit of a tricky situation. You can basically peek an angle, put your wall down, use that to peek with. If they then don't really shoot your wall, you can pick it back up, peek a new angle with the wall, and then if they try and use your wall as cover, you can just pick it up, and then they're out in the open. It's like that cover just magically disappears, and you can really catch people off by doing this. Oh, another thing is that you can actually place walls around corners without even having to peek the corner first. So you can essentially get free peeks out of this. You can put your wall around a corner with the right camera angle, then you're safe to go and peek that door. Like if someone's going to shoot your wall, you're going to know they're behind it. If no one shoots your wall, you can peek it safely. If nobody's there, pick up your wall again. Like it's crazy that you have that ability to place an object around corners that gives you a free peek like that. I feel like not many people realize that with Rampart. Alright, so I've got a diagram on screen that explains this a little better, but essentially with this sort of double wall trap placement, you're setting up the walls to wedge one of the double doors so that if a player then opens the door, it will open up just one of the double doors and they're going to just walk straight into your wall, and you have the perfect wide angle that even if they try and run as fast as they can towards you, you're going to have a really good peek at them, and yeah, you're going to do a lot of damage to them for sure. Oh, also, if you drop down from height, you can actually start placing the wall before you hit the ground, so it can save you a few precious milliseconds. And finally, if you come across a Rampart team that's inside a building, they have their walls on the inside of the doors and they open the door, you can just shoot down their walls with a turret and basically take ownership of that door. You can get closer, put up your walls on the outside, and then yeah, have a field day with a turret. If you found any of these tips useful today, let me know. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the comments. Cheerio!